Hello Penguinauts, I'm the Beardy Penguin and welcome back to Endurance and the channel in general. We have been away for quite some time because of course I went away for Christmas, went back home, so I was away from my computer and I couldn't make any videos, and when I came back to university I had a bunch of exams to revise for, so obviously university took priority there and YouTube was one of my lowest priorities. But I'm back now and I'm going to talk about the future of the channel because I've sort of found my work-life balance now, so I know roughly how many videos I can be making, but I'll start talking about the future of the channel and where Kerbal Rising and everything is a little bit later in the video. So for now, what are we launching right now? Well, we're launching Prospect 1. In the last episode, while we were exploring the surface of Demise, I was talking about my plans for this series. We're going to be building an off-world rocket manufacturing plant on either the moon of Nemesis or the moon of Guardian. In order to decide which of these two candidates is the best candidate for our colony, where we can start actually manufacturing rockets off-world, we need to actually survey them and find out what resources they actually hold. So that's what this spacecraft here is for. The first one we're going to head to is Nemesis. You see here just reusing the booster, leaving a little bit of fuel, doing our boost back burn. Not exactly a boost back burn, I guess, in the sense that SpaceX do it. We're not going to land back on the launch pad. We're just trying to slow down and try and reduce the distance that we are from our launch site, so try and get back as much money as we can from recovering those incredibly expensive vector engines at the bottom of the rocket there. But we're going to head to Nemesis and actually survey it, and also land a pair of rovers on the surface so we can get slightly more detailed surface scans of the resource deposits to be found across the regolith. And we're also going to be setting up a communications network, so that's why we've got those 3 probes at the top there. So it's sort of like 5 different probes all in one, which is kind of fun. The only planetary body we've actually surveyed for resources so far is Demise, which is a little weird. We just sort of packed the survey scanner because it gave us a bit of extra, little bit of extra science when we scanned for resources, but we're certainly never going to be harvesting resources from Demise, but not with gravity as high as it is on that world. It would not be particularly feasible to maintain an off-world colony that far away on a world with such high gravity and no atmosphere whatsoever to speak of. But as I said, we're setting up a communications network because even though our communications network is pretty decent, it's sort of a bit cobbled together. Like for the most part, you don't lose comms. Like, we have probes all over the solar system as well, so usually you can ping a signal from a probe that's out in deep space, but it's a little bit unreliable. So I just want to make sure, since we're going to be landing a lot of unmanned, very expensive, heavy modules on the surfaces of these two worlds, I want to make sure we have an absolutely foolproof communications network. So we're going to set up networks of 3 satellites in perfectly equidistant orbits around Nemesis and Guardian, and that means we should have coverage over the entire Solitude system wherever we are. So you see here, we just performed our orbital scan and we can flick through the different resources. So I'm actually going to have a little talk about the different resources that we need while we actually put our satellites into the various different orbits. Although first, one thing I did check out is I lowered the orbit a little bit and I scanned for a thing called resource loads. I think they're added by USI. You can scan for them and they're like spots on the map. I don't really know what they are. Like, I think they might just be particularly high resource deposits or something, but honestly I have no idea what these are. So if any of you guys could tell me in the comments below, yeah, I'd appreciate that. So while we're setting up our communications network, I'm just going to talk about the different resources we actually need. So we're using extraplanetary launch pads, but when you install Umbra Space Industries and its modular colonization system, it makes the whole production chain of producing rockets way more complicated, because in the base extraplanetary launch pads mod, you just mine metal ore, refine it into metals, and then turn it into rocket parts, and boom, you can build rockets. Whereas in USI, it's far more complicated. You need material kits and specialized parts to build them. Material kits require metallic ore to be refined into metals, substrate to be refined into something or other. What is it? Substrate to be refined. I have a whole thing of production chains here. I have to do so much math. USI is renowned for being horrendously complicated. Right, yeah, substrate into polymers, and also you need to refine minerals into chemicals. So that's for material kits. Then for specialized parts, you need rare metals, exotic minerals, and silicates. So the rare metals and exotic minerals go into refined exotics, and the silicates go into silicon. And then you can put those two different things together, and you can build rockets. It's really complicated. You need a lot of different resources. You need machinery to do each of the individual steps. You need different refineries and stuff to actually refine all the various resources and yada yada yada. And you can pretty much never find all of the resources you need in one location. And that's just for manufacturing rockets. If we want to make the colony self-sufficient, we're going to need hydrates so we can produce water, and gypsum so we can actually produce fertilizer and grow some crops and actually produce our own supplies in situ. So yeah, I mean, USI is the most complicated colonization mod by far. But the reason why I chose it is, well, I mean, I've been playing Kerbal Space Program for a long time, so yes, I wanted a challenge. But also, it's more realistic, I guess, in a sense. I mean, it's still not realistic. You're just landing in a biome of a planet and immediately just dropping a drill and picking up resources. But still, it's more of an achievement. And it's far more of a logistical challenge to actually get a colony working. So when we actually get all this sorted out, I'm going to be super proud of it. And it's going to require a lot of infrastructure and a lot of effort. And I think that's really required for you to have the advantages that you actually get from having an off-world rocket building site. Because think about it, if you're building them off-world, the rockets don't cost you anything. And also, you don't have to push them through the atmosphere and up out of the gravity well of Solitude. So this is not only going to save us money, but also we can send specialized parts and material kits, or just rare metals, which are worth a crap ton, back to Solitude. Like, we can ship it back, recover it, and literally export resources back to Solitude and make a crap ton of money. Once we actually get this whole colony thing actually sorted, we're not going to have to worry about funds for the rest of the game, which is pretty important considering a lot of the late game parts are very expensive, especially like the warp drives and fusion reactors and stuff. So this is pretty much a necessary step in our in our expansion out into the cosmos and eventually towards another star. So you can see here we've landed our first rover. So what these are going to do, essentially just explore the surface and increase the accuracy of our orbital survey scans. Because we found a little area, essentially, where most of our resources can be found. Because resources are tied to biomes. What we're going to do here is scan the surface in each of these biomes and get a more detailed picture of the resource distribution so that we can actually find a suitable landing site for our future colonies. You see here we're just moving our way off. We've got a little rover cam here, which I don't know what it is about having a little camera on a spacecraft. It's so cool. Like, you see as we're driving around to the next biome, I just couldn't resist just messing with the camera and just looking about. It just makes it so much cooler just to have something from the perspective of the space probe you're driving. It just makes it so much more awesome. I just love this little camera part, which is from Tarsia Space Industries, yeah. But anyway, see, we've made it to our first, well, we landed in a biome, but we made it to our next biome and taking another scan, getting a good idea of the resource distributions, and we're moving up to a third biome to take yet another scan. But there is a fourth one that we're going to need to explore. I believe it's the Highlands biome, so we're going to need to head to that with our second rover so we can actually have a detailed view of all the resources across the entirety of Nemesis. However, even our orbital survey scan revealed a bit of a problem with Nemesis. You see, we need silicates to refine into silicon so we can make specialized parts, pretty integral part of not only making rockets actually, but you use material kits and specialized parts to make machinery, which is used in manufacturing everything, and also in building colony supplies, which can freeze the hab timers of your Kerbal so they can essentially stay there forever on the surface of a body, and also help Kerbals recover and from homesickness and the like. So that's basically the key to making a self-sufficient colony. So they're very, very important resources. And yeah, Nemesis doesn't have any silicates on it. you see this rover here, we accidentally smashed the solar panels on the way down, and also the antenna, so we only get, so thank God for the communications network. We've got one of the comms, well, we've got Talos 2 heading overhead right now, which means we can still communicate just with the short range antenna built into the probe core, but we can't actually transmit any science, which is a little irritating. But as you see there, we actually have our, we have finally got our resource overview. But yeah, it hasn't got any silicates, which is a problem, which means we're either going to have to import them in order to manufacture things, or find a different way to produce them. Now there is actually a different way to produce them, because as well as having USI installed, we also have KSP Interstellar, which has its own resource, has its own resources and its own production chains, but it also has a resource called silicon. It has the same name, meaning you can actually still use that in the USI production chains, even though you produce it differently in Interstellar. So in KSP Interstellar, you mine spodumene and you refine that into a bunch of different things, but one of the byproducts of refining that is silicon. So essentially, we would throw away the main product of refining that, which is liquid oxygen. That would essentially be the byproduct of our silicon production. It's a less efficient way to do things, but it is still a way of manufacturing it, and it'll be a lot easier than importing silicon, even though silicon is very cheap. So you know, we'll think about what's more cost effective, but I want to be able to set everything up so we can essentially just mine way more resources than we actually need, and then refine more than we actually need, and then, you know, so we can basically not have to worry about it, and we can just leave our rocket production going, you know, without me having to micromanage. That is the aim of this, and that requires a lot of infrastructure and a lot of effort. But USI's got some pretty good systems in place, like logistics systems for you to transport resources across the surface of a body. So we're not, if all we need to do is essentially create mining stations across the surface of Nemesis or Guardian, and then we can actually, without having to do it manually, we can transfer resources between those different mining stations, or to a single main base for refining. So USI is very good in that regard. It does save you a lot of effort. Of course, it makes things more complicated, but you know, it doesn't make things painful or frustrating, you know, which is why I think I love it so much. You see here, yeah, I didn't even touch upon the fact that, yeah, we launched another prospector for Guardian, but it's pretty much exactly the same mission to Nemesis, just it's on Guardian this time. Now, at first, Guardian seemed like a much better candidate than Nemesis. Not only is it, well, much prettier for a start, it's not as dark and gloomy, but also most of the resources we need are all located in this one big basin, or this one crater. I think it's literally 4 out of the 6 resources we need, and a bunch of the life support resources as well, like gypsum and hydrates. So this is actually really, really good. So in Nemesis, we need to be spread out across, I think, pretty much all 4 biomes on Nemesis in order to actually mine all the resources we need, whereas on Guardian we can get away with landing mining stations in just 2 biomes, so this one and a bit of a mountain biome, which our second rover is going to be landing in here. However, the problem is, while Nemesis was missing silicates, which obviously, while important, are very cheap to import, and we can actually produce another way, which I don't, some people in my Discord when I mentioned this said it was cheating. I don't think it's cheating at all. It's just, you know, we have Interstellar installed. It's just a different way of refining a resource. You know, I was like, you know, just use the KSP Interstellar resource, you know, extraction and production. I just went improvise, adapt, overcome. But I think it's actually pretty cool that we can still produce silicon using a different mod, and you know, still actually utilize it, which is pretty interesting. But what Guardian is missing are rare metals. Unlike silicates, rare metals are, well, rare, and they are extremely valuable. Like just a container of rare metals costs millions of funds. They are extremely expensive, and it would not be remotely cost effective to import them. And there is no other way of producing them. Only USI uses them. So if you don't have rare metals on a planet, you can't get rare metals. There is no other way to get them. So even though Guardian, it would be easier, considering the distribution of the resources, you know, they're mostly focused in just 2 biomes. Unfortunately, it's missing rare metals. So it's not particularly viable. We could, of course, you know, mine rare metals from Nemesis and ship the rare metals across to Guardian, but I really want to have everything on one body, so we don't have to be worrying about transferring ships between the 2 different moons. We also try and simplify this as much as possible. Our logistics are already going to be a complete nightmare, so we're going to try and keep things as simple as possible. And yeah, we're either going to import our silicon that we need, or we're just going to mine spodumene, as I said, and get silicon as a byproduct from that process using KSP Interstellar. So I think Nemesis is going to be our colonization candidate, but that is enough for our colonization plans for the moment, because yeah, we still don't have anywhere near enough funds to be thinking about building any kind of off-world colony. Those things are pretty big projects to undertake, and we don't have any contracts to fund them. It's going to be entirely funded after we've built it, right? Because it's going to pay for itself, but we still need that initial investment, which will be about 5 to 10 million funds for all the various different parts. We haven't even researched a lot of the colonization parts that we need yet. So in the meantime, we're going to be earning ourselves some more money, and that is what this spacecraft is designed to do. We have got a contract which is going to pay us almost 2 million funds to redirect a Class C asteroid into orbit around the wasteland. Now, this isn't actually particularly difficult to do. We have a transfer window to the wasteland coming up, and I just thought, you know what, yeah, screw it, we'll do this. We'll get ourselves 2 million funds. So much like we named the last asteroid redirect mission Prometheus, because it's, stole fire from the gods, stole something from above. This time we're naming this one Phaethon, who was the son of Helios, the sun god, and he took his father's sun chariot and rode it across the sky, causing devastation with his inexperience as he couldn't control the heavenly steeds that pulled the chariot across the sky. So I think that's a pretty appropriate sort of metaphor. We're taking a heavenly chariot, an asteroid, and we're riding it across the cosmos. I say riding it, we're pushing it. We're pushing it to, actually really, like, this spacecraft's more like the heavenly steed, to be fair. But I mean, we're still the one running with the asteroids. Okay, it's not a perfect metaphor, but still, it's a fun name. We're calling it Phaethon. I thought that was pretty funky. Anyways, you see, we're just, as usual, reusing that first stage. Our reusability is getting pretty reliable at this point, actually. This is the, I think the name of this spacecraft is the Eagle. Yeah, it's the Eagle 7. I believe it has 7 engines. Yeah, Eagle 7, this one. And then our large 5-meter one is called the Albatross 15. But we're not using any like liquid fueled side boosters or anything, because much like our original launch vehicle, the 2.5 meter one with the reusable side boosters, I just try and keep the amount of stages down as low as possible, so I don't have to keep swapping back using Flight Manager and landing all the various different stages. I'm just trying to save time as much as possible. So if we can, we're now using our 3.75 meter launch vehicle, even if the 2.5 meter one can do it, just because it's one stage that I have to reuse, and then I'm on with the main mission, so unless I really need to, I'm trying to use single stage or 2-stage launch vehicles. But anyways, you see, Phaethon, it's not a pretty spacecraft. It's very asymmetrical, but essentially it's just got all the different parts that we need on there. So it's got the main grabbing unit, then it's got an ore tank, and it's got a drill, because of course we're going to be mining the asteroid for ore, refining that into fuel so that we can A, reduce the mass of the asteroid, and B, refuel our spacecraft so it will have enough to get it out to the wasteland. I think even without refueling we would actually have enough to get it out there, but it's just much easier to mine the asteroid, refuel our spacecraft, and get it out there. And hey, then we're going to have a massive fuel depot just sitting in orbit around the wasteland, which could never be a bad thing, because I think maybe once we've got our Nemesis, off-world manufacturing ongoing, I think we might actually, build some kind of colony on Malice, the orbit, the moon of Wasteland. That could be interesting. Anyway, while we're doing this and just adjusting orbits and the like, I did say I would talk about the future of the channel briefly. Basically, I'm sorry to those of you who enjoyed Stellaris, but I'm not really going to have the time to do the live commentary series anymore, like Stellaris, Hearts of Iron 4. I will finish the Hearts of Iron 4 series, because I only need to make one more episode, but it just needs a lot of editing, so much like the finale of the French Commune one, I'm going to put some memes in there. It should be pretty fun. So that will be ending, but yeah, Stellaris, I'll release the final episode sometime soon, but with the update and everything and how little time I have, yeah, I'm sorry, I'm not going to be able to continue that series. Kerbal Rising, I know is the question most of you are thinking. I don't know. Kerbal Rising might return in a few months, maybe at Easter when I have some time, maybe it's in summer, maybe never. I don't know. If the BD Armory devs update the mod so that, you know, guns actually finally work properly in space, I know the missiles now work in space and lasers, then maybe I'll get back into it. But like tape as a job, I'm at uni, and it requires so much time to make. I don't know, we'll just have to wait and see. But Endurance will be going strong because I really enjoy recording Endurance. I have a crap ton of backed up footage now actually, so Endurance should be coming out every week, so you have that to look forward to. But yeah, now we have our spacecraft Phaethon on an intercept with that asteroid. We transmit some science from Claimer and Odyssey, and we can begin researching the resource utilization technologies. We don't quite have enough to get the final one, but once we have that, we can begin mining resources off-world, refining them into different products, and building rocket parts, and that should be pretty awesome. So we'll be working on that in some future episodes, but until then, I am the Beardy Penguin. Thank you very much for watching, everyone, and I will see you all next time.